So I guess initial thoughts, fellas. I mean, those last two drives, I just had all the horrible memories of UVA in 2012 or even last year against Indiana start to come back. I was almost certain that they were going to punch it in, and kick the game-winning extra point with very little time left for Penn State to go downfield and of course try like a 45-yard field goal, which, with Stout being what it was today, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, but first of all, you look to recruiting, and that translates into playmakers. And when you have a game like this where you're playing against Wisconsin on the road, they're going to be a good team. It's probably going to be a close game. You need one or two plays, and Penn State wasn't great, particularly offensively. Defense was great. But Penn State wasn't great throughout this one, but when they needed big plays, Jahan Dotson came up with a big play. Noah Cain came up with a big play. Jaquan Brisker came up with a big play. These are all guys that were really big recruiting wins and have translated into the plays that kind of separate games like this.
And let's give Wisconsin credit, right? Like, we all talk about Wisconsin's defense in passing. They're a good defense. But they're one of the best defenses in the Big Ten, if not the country, very consistently. So the fact that Penn State struggled to move the ball in the first half should not have been unexpected. However, the fact that they went into the half, made adjustments, and then were able to move the ball, even if they only score 16 points out of it, it's credit to Wisconsin, right? Mm-hmm. But also credit to Penn State's offense for making those adjustments.
It's funny. I don't know what Penn State ended up with in terms of the rushing totals. I don't know whether somebody has that in front of them. But I was working on my preview for the Gettysburg Times that came out Friday, and I mentioned that Wisconsin last year had one of the best run defenses in the country. They allowed, I think it was 95 yards per game, which is fifth best in the country. And I'm sitting there all for the first 2.5 quarters saying, why the hell can't Penn State run the ball? It turns out like Wisconsin's pretty good at stopping you from doing that. And obviously as Penn State hit some deep balls, as Penn State was able to stretch the defense, things opened up a bit for Noah Cain. But until you're able to do that, you're not going to be able to run on them. And I don't care who you are.
Now, we all, of course, Sean Clifford was the talk of all offseason. How much, if any, would he be improved working with Mike Yurcich, which obviously, as we all know, is third coordinator in as many years being the starter. The beginning, it looked rather shaky. But then, second half, I don't know about you, but it seemed like Yurcich made some real adjustments. He realized that to beat Wisconsin, at least get the ball moving on Wisconsin's defense, you got to, work the edges, utilize your athletes to try to outrun them with little screen passes and then take the occasional deep shot at Jahan, which, worked quite well a few times during the game.
Yeah, I think Penn State, what really we saw throughout is not only is Jahan Dotson a threat, but there were some big plays by Parker Washington throughout the game, who I think ended up with a few catches. Keandre Lambert-Smith was open. And I think Clifford, those guys just being competent enough to be able to make plays is going to open things up throughout. I think Clifford had more than 200 yards in the first half. Or in
247. You see the ticker on the bottom.
247 in the game. I think it was 200 plus in the second half alone.
Oh, yeah. They had like 43 yards of offense in the first half, something ridiculous.
I think as they develop, we don't need – it would be nice for Sean Clifford to be an all Big Ten level or an all-American level, but the reality is that's not likely. And Penn State doesn't need it to be a good team. They just need somewhere around 2019 Sean Clifford, who was a better-than-average Power 5 quarterback.
To answer the question about rushing yards, 50. They had 50 rushing yards for the game.
I think that was after -1 or something in the first half, or though.
Yeah. Oh. Which, if we
48 50.
If we play that takeaway game too, right? Like there were so many negative yardage plays in the first half that maybe that number looks a little better. But as we mentioned earlier, right, this is Wisconsin's bread and butter. They're going to stop the run, and it's great that one of the pieces on the passing stats that I personally enjoyed is 0 interceptions by Clifford, which was the big problem at the beginning of last season. And if he can continue to do just that, which is basically what you're alluding to, right, Clay, is if he could continue to be decent, he doesn't need to be extraordinary. Just don't throw interceptions, don't give the ball away, and you put yourself in positions to win games like this one.